This 2024 AL West Division betting preview edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Cut. Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's US-based and available in 40 states. Head to cut.com, that's KUTT.com, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, NHL, college basketball, and more. Sign up today using promo code MLB SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code MLB SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, March the 5th, currently 6:02 on the East Coast. Here to get into another division preview for the upcoming MLB season. Probably talking about the most exciting division, I guess we can say, or one of the ones, and at least in my eyes. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but we'll be talking the AL West this episode and here tonight. And joining me here to help me break down the AL West. It's been a minute. The man is racking up money. He's too busy to get on these pods with us. He's giving me winner after winner on the college basketball picks as well. It's my main man, Lonte Smith. Lonte, what's going on, brother? How you doing, man? Long time.
Yeah, man, doing good. Pretty good. Glad to be back right around the corner. We got opening day right around the corner. So, yeah, man, wrapping up these division previews. I've been diving in since probably about last month. So, spring training going on, whether I don't know if you want to look too far into that. But, yeah, man, looking forward to breaking down the division. Like you said, one of the better divisions in the MLB. So, yeah, man, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know outside of at least this division, we got a lot of news as far as pitcher injuries today in the MLB. Lucas Giolito looks like more than likely he's probably going to end up missing the entire 2024 season. May have a UCL injury, and we know how those typically go for pitchers. Hopefully it's better news, but it doesn't look that way right now, so he may be missing the at least majority of the season for the Red Sox. Sonny Gray also had an injury today pitching in spring training, so he will be missing some time as well. And then Justin Verlander of the Houston Astros we'll talk about here as well. He's going to start the season on the IL for the Astros. He's dealing with a shoulder injury, so it's going to be interesting to see how some of these pitchers do pan out. And also, I know we'll talk about the Rangers in a minute. I mean, this division I think is another theme that pitching is going to be the bigger conversation in this division for a lot of these teams. But obviously, this division, we had the World Series winner coming out of the AL West in the Texas Rangers last year. It was a very, very tight race down the stretch for this division. The Astros, at the end of the day, did pull off the division win, got to the ALCS again against the Texas Rangers. Rangers did get the one-up them, at least the Astros, in that ALCS and going eventually to the World Series to face the Arizona Diamondbacks and winning a World Series title, did the Rangers. So, I mean, that was pretty much what transpired, at least last season, in this AL West division. And then obviously the bigger news, the biggest story in the offseason in the AL West, the Angels, the biggest name maybe in sports, and Shohei Ohtani leaving the Angels, heading to the crosstown. I don't know. I don't want to call them rivals, but crosstown team and I don't understand why they call the Angels the LA Angels when they play in Anaheim. I'm sure there's a backstory for it, but he goes over to the Dodgers. He's going to be their man of the future and possibly look like he's going to retire there for the LA Dodgers here, Lonte. But before we get into at least the next season here for this AL West division, looking back to last season, did anything surprise you or stick out to you as far as this division? Because, I mean, there's three teams in this division that are going to be, I think, neck and neck throughout this upcoming season that are going to be fighting not only for the division, but also for playoff spots.
Yeah, I think Seattle, they started off hot and then they kind of ended They lost the division. I think they lost it on the last day, if I'm not mistaken, right? They could have won.
Yeah, it was like the last week, and they like absolutely
Right.
like just coughed it away. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Seattle coughing it up down the stretch. They were pretty much in cruise control early on, and I mean, you never can count out the Astros. Obviously, that's always going to be the case. I mean, Texas, of course, surprised us in the postseason, but I mean, the way their lineup has been hitting, the pitching that they got from Montgomery, especially at the top of that lineup, man, like Evaldi, after DeGrom went down. I mean, I didn't write him off, but I mean, obviously, you know, Montgomery has never been kind of the ace type of guy. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't. He probably pitched his best that he's pitched, and it might be the best that he's gonna pitch last season, especially in that postseason. So I think Evaldi was great as well. I mean, you know, we know what the bats do, Seager and all those guys. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't really surprised by anything except for Seattle kind of tailing off at the end. Astros, I mean, you got to compare the Astros. I compare the Astros to, you know, those Miami Heat teams with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. Like, they're gonna be there no matter what. They got a consistency throughout the lineup. I mean, they locked up Altuve. He's probably gonna, you know, be a for lifer there. I know the news with the pitching is with Verlander. You know, it is what it is. But I mean, it's the Astros. I mean, they're gonna always find a way. And then, I mean, it's pretty much a 3-team race here. I know we're gonna get into it, but I'm excited to talk about the division, man. I think it's gonna be a good one. I think it's gonna be a good finish. Come down to the end like it did last year.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we talked about like at this top of this division. We'll go team by team here and starting in a second here. But I think it's going to be a fun race, right? Like you mentioned, the Texas Rangers, can they necessarily repeat their success that they had last season? I know their bats were one of the best, if not the best, in the entire MLB last season as far as a runs per game standpoint. And we'll talk about some of the guys that they may have coming up from the minor league for this Rangers team that also will make them better. And their 1-2 punch that they envisioned that was going to get them or have them have success in the playoffs in their World Series run. I mean, Jacob deGrom, like you mentioned, went down. Max Scherzer, you know, struggled a little bit there as well, and you know, he wasn't fully healthy for this team as well. So I don't expect those guys to be. I think from everything that I was researching, you know, prepping for this division and the Texas Rangers, that they probably don't expect those two guys to be back at least till mid-season for the Texas Rangers here, Lonte. But let's just get into it, man. Let's just start. We'll go team by team here. You know how we do it here. We'll go through the win totals, division odds, and all that good stuff, and we'll throw out any future player, you know, props or awards market that we're looking at for any of these teams. So we'll work our way from the bottom and we'll go to the top here. So let's start here with the bottom of the barrel. That's going to be the Oakland A's. They currently have a win total of 56.5. Their division odds are 200-1. I'm not sure if I want to waste people's time here by reading their pennant odds here, but just for some kicks and giggles here, Lonte, they also are 200-1 to win the AL pennant. And for them to shock the world and make history, for them to win the World Series, they are at 400-1. I'm not sure if it was at 100,000-1. Lonte, I would even put money down on this Oakland A's team.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and again, I don't think it's the fault of a lot of these players, but it's just right now what's kind of going on about their location of this team, right? I mean, we've read the rumors about them eventually and more than likely now moving to Las Vegas, and being part of the fourth major sports team there with the WNBA, you know, with the NFL there, and also with the Golden Knights there as well. So, I mean, this team last year, again, finished at the bottom of this division with a record of 50-112. Some of their departures from last season: outfielder Tony Kemp, right-handed pitcher Austin Pruitt, and some of the additions that they did have this season. That's going to be Abraham Toro, Miguel Andujar, Alex Wood, Ross Stripling, Scott Alexander. So they added some guys in this rotation, I guess, to kind of give them some depth here. But I mean, especially being in this division here, Lonte, I think this is a time right now where they're just going to pretty much pile up the prospects and look towards the future and maybe get a fresh start when they eventually possibly do move over to Vegas and be the baseball team there. But what are you thinking about this A's team coming into the season with a win total of 56.5?
Man, yeah, it's low. It's that low for a reason. I can't go over it. I think the number's probably about right, to be honest, because like you mentioned, they brought in Wood, they brought in Stripling. Stripling's actually the highest paid player on their roster, which goes to show you how.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. They're a young team. I think their projected lineup for opening day, barring anything happening, all under 30 besides one player. They got some nice pieces. Like I like Blackburn. I think I found myself back in Blackburn a lot, especially he's going to be a dog. He pitches well. I like him at the top of the lineup. They do have some like young pieces. Ruiz is a decent player. I think he led the AL in stolen bases, 67 stolen bases last year. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was at the top. I don't know if he led. I'll take that back. I don't know if he led, but he was at the top in stolen bases in the AL. So he's nice. Brent, he hit 30 home runs, first All-Star appearance. He was pretty good. I mean, you just like grasping for straws here, to be honest with you, man. They had 58 less runs than the next highest team, which was the White Sox, and you know how anemic their offense is. They were 20th in home runs. I mean, it's hard to find. It's really hard to find like something to like about it. I really do like Blackburn. I like Ruiz. I think he's a nice player. Brent is a good player. Also, what's my guy named Zach Jaloff, second baseman.
Yeah,
he's really good. I think he's really good. He didn't make his debut till mid-July. I think he'll be poised to have a good year. I mean, they're back-to-back 100-loss seasons. Like you mentioned, the up and down of if they're going to stay, if they're going to go, what they're going to do. I think that's kind of wearing down on these players. I mean, they're not good to start with, and then you got to deal with the outside noise of not knowing what you're going to do with yourself and your family and all that. So that just adds to it. I mean, really nothing to like about the team, to be honest. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Like other than those few players, not much to like here, Munaf. I mean, maybe you got something for me.
I really don't. I mean, you mentioned Ruiz. He was second as far as stolen bases to only the league MVP, or sorry, the NL MVP. But overall, for the MLB, he was second. But in AL, you're right. He was first in stolen bases for this A's team. And also, like, I mean, you take a look at their farm system. When we talk about some of these lesser teams, I mean, they don't have a very good farm system. I think that their only top 100 prospect that they have right now is their shortstop Jacob Wilson. And again, if outside of that, he's not expected to be on this roster, possibly maybe at the tail end of this upcoming season, but if not in the 2025 season. So again, like you mentioned, you're really grasping at straws here. I think, like you mentioned, that it speaks volumes about this A's team that your highest paid player is Ross Stripling, and nothing to take away from him. I mean, there's spots last year when he's made his rounds around some of the MLB teams where he was pretty solid, but I think that kind of speaks on that even a guy like Ross Stripling is your highest paid player. And there's a whole bunch of there is talent on this team, but again, with the stuff that's going off the field about location, things like that for this A's team, again, it's really difficult. So I think right now it would be just a good time for them to pile up prospects and build towards the future for this Oakland A's team. So again, hopefully brighter days are ahead for this Oakland A's team. And I'll be honest, to our listeners and to you, Lonte, I really just spent a lot of time looking into the Oakland A's here.
It's not much to do. I mean, like literally the only backable position that they'll be in is when Blackburn's on the mound. I mean, to be honest, I mean, maybe Wood at times, depending on the matchup. I mean, he has some good stuff, but I mean, again, what kind of offense are you going to get to back him? I mean, Blackburn literally has to win. He literally has to be perfect. He has to go, 7, sometimes even 8 to even think about getting a win because of the bullpen. And then you're not going to get a lot of run support. I mean, the young guys, I mean, they're young. They're just not ready for the big leagues on a consistent basis. But I mean, like you said, they just don't have a good enough farm system. Some of the guys that they do have, like we mentioned, they are solid, but can't piece it all together. So yeah, man, I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to waste any more time because I think there's some more intriguing teams to talk about in this division here. And before we get over to some of those teams in this division, let me tell everyone about our sponsor here. That's going to be Cut, man. Cut, it's a lot of fun. If you haven't already checked out Cut is a peer-to-peer social betting platform That's US based, and it's available in 40 states. Peer-to-peer social betting is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes. Tons of fun social features that gives it a feel of a betting social network. Cut even offers lower VIG and fully customizable odds. You can create your own bets. Cut handles the payment side of things, so you never have to chase anyone down for money. Some of the social features include group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles, fan groups, and much more. They also have a rewards program. You can get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download Cut today in the App Store or at cut.com. That's Kutt, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. Again, that's cut.com, promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. And we're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. You can play the pick'em game. I know we've had a lot of success with it on the NBA pod. The college guys are having a lot of success as well. Pick whether your favorite players will have a higher or lower stat total in this week's games for a chance to win big. You can win up to 100 times your money in a single night. Pick between 2 and 5 players to build a pick'em entry. You can also make rival picks, which picks 2 players against each other. And I'm excited for the upcoming MLB season. We're gonna do an underdog segment for it as well. I know we didn't do it last year, but I think this year is gonna be a lot of fun getting in those entries for the MLB season. So sign up today with our promo code MLB SGPN and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Again, that's an instant pick'em special. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. And don't forget to register with our promo code MLB SGPN to get your first deposit doubled up to $100, as well as an instant pick'em special. Must be 18 years or older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Again, make sure you use that promo code MLB SGPN. Speaking of the upcoming season for Underdog Fantasy, Mal told me that whoever signs up with the promo code MLB SGPN, because we just got our own personal code, he is going to send them a personalized autograph picture of him in the bath. It will be G-rated. It'll be G-rated for sure. But he's going to autograph it and he'll send it out to you. So whoever signs up first with that MLB SGPN code, Mal's going to send you a picture of himself in the bath, G-rated with an autograph on it. So we'll see. Or we're gonna expect these signups to be coming through like rapid fire here, Lonte, for Underdog with our promo code MLB SGPN. But let's get over to the next team in this division. And boy, if there was ever a team that the air got deflated from their tires, it is the Los Angeles Angels, with obviously the big news, like we talked about at the top of the episode here, Lonte. Shohei Ohtani leaves for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Currently, this upcoming season, they have a win total of 72.5. Division odds currently sitting at 45-1 for them to win the AL pennant. That is going to be at 80-1, and for them to win the World Series title, they are currently at 50-1. And just for kicks, if they find a way to make the playoffs right now, pre-flop, it's at 9-1 for them to make the playoffs, and then minus 1,400 that they don't miss the playoffs. Or sorry, they do miss the playoffs. But obviously, the big news here, Lonte, is Shohei Ohtani's departure from this team, going over to the Dodgers. You do get Mike Trout back, but Mike Trout, I mean, over the past couple of seasons has just been decimated by injuries. If you just kind of take a look at how many games that he's played over the past at least 2 seasons for this Los Angeles Angels team, it hasn't been a lot. I mean, last season he only played in 82 games for this LA Angels team. The season prior, he did play in 119 games. The season prior to that, 36 and then 53. I know one of the years was COVID years with less games, obviously, but. And again, Mike Trout already come out and said that he doesn't want to be traded from the Los Angeles Angels. But my biggest gripe with this team has always been their pitching. And ever since we started the MLB Gambling Podcast, Mal and I have talked about this extensively, that they need to do something to address their pitching, as they still just have not done that. And now you lose Shohei Ohtani, who was, the former MVP. But again, I think that this is another team that's just going to be at the bottom of the barrel in this AL West division. You take a look at last year, Lonte, just wasn't a very good season with this team, even when you did have Ohtani and Mike Trout for over the time that they did have them. But What are your thoughts on this Angels team right now with a win total of 72.5?
Yeah, man, I think you summed it up perfectly. I mean, even with Ohtani and Trout, they were below average. I mean, and that's two of the best players in the MLB. So, I mean, what are they going to be without Shohei? And then, I mean, we can just pretty much stamp that Trout's going to miss some time, like a ton of time. He hasn't played more than 100 games since 2019. I think you went over that whenever you were going through his through his games play log. But how about you, man? I'm surprised Mal has something negative to say. His guy Griffin Canning is on the roster, so he loves betting on Griffin Canning. But yeah, I mean, just look at their rotation. I mean, Detmers, Canning, Sandoval, Tyler Anderson. And Detmers had a 4.48 ERA last year. Canning and Sandoval each have ERAs 4 and above. Anderson was above 5. So I mean, like, who's getting guys out? That's the main issue. Then you got Rendon, who God knows what he's going to do.
Did you see what he said in the offseason?
Yeah, I seen it. It's like, what is he doing? And so this is he's not too far removed from winning the World Series. And, he was the NL MVP finalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't get it, man. I mean, I can make a case that, well, listen, I'm not going to make a case that they're as bad as Oakland, but I can make a case that they're in a worse position because they actually have decent players and they still can't produce, like, at all. So, man, 72.5, I'm going under. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I would go under 70. I think they win around 62, 63 games. I mean, who's going to get guys out? I just read that's the top of their rotation. Like Detmers, Canning, Sandoval, Tyler Anderson. Like, all those guys aren't like anything. I do like Moniak, Mickey Moniak. I think he's pretty good. They did get a new manager. I mean, Ron Washington, but I mean, I don't know what he got a tough job to do. I can tell you that. They were pretty much middle of the pack last year offensively, and a lot of their numbers were brought up by with Shohei, and then a little bit of time that Trout played. I mean, they were 6th in home runs allowed, 3rd in walks allowed, 23rd in team ERA. So I just don't know where you get. I mean, let some of these young guys step up and you get like maybe a young guy a young guy or two in a rotation that kind of surprises you, kind of like what we saw from the Dodgers when they had what's my man name, the rookie pitcher that they had who was undefeated for a while. People were talking about him for Cy Young, and he kind of just flamed out. I think it's Bobby.
For the Dodgers last year?
Yeah, for the Dodgers.
Bobby Miller?
Yeah, Bobby Miller. Yeah. So unless you get a couple guys like that can just be serviceable, I really don't see it, man. I'm going under here. I mean, it's just simple. Like they could barely be competitive with two of the best players in baseball. What are they going to do with a third of one? I guess Mike Trout, we all know. I mean, he's a great player, but how often is he going to be available? That's the main thing. And if you're not available for the games, I mean, you're kind of useless. So, and why he wants to stay there and not go somewhere where he can actually compete for, the postseason. So I don't get it. I'm not a fan of this team, not a fan of the pitching. I'm going under, man.
Yeah, again, it just goes back to the pitching for me with this team. The thing about their roster or their pitching rotation is you have a lot of guys that have potential, right? Reed Detmers had the one no-hitter.
He had a no-no, right?
He had a no-no back in 2022, right. But after that, it's just been lackluster for Reed Detmers, right? His rookie year when he was a full-time starter, 1-3 with a 7.40 ERA. 2022 was his best year, 7-6 with a 3.77 ERA. Last year, 4-9 with a 4.48 ERA. And again, like you mentioned, like when Trout is healthy, if Trout plays 130 games, you could probably pencil him for 40 home runs. Like that's the type of player we know that Mike Trout is, right? But like you mentioned, the best thing you can do for your team is be available. And at least the past several seasons, Mike Trout hasn't been available for this LA Angels team. And again, we know when he's on the field, when he's batting, and when he's in the outfield, manning center field, he has those highlight plays every other game. And again, he's one of the best players in MLB, but he just has to stay healthy for this team. And again, if he is healthy, he's going to be in that MVP conversation because he's that type of player. But again, when it comes down to when I'm looking at these teams, Lonte, like you mentioned, it's pitching for this team, for the LA Angels. And I think this is a season where you kind of want to see these guys take that next step when they're in their pitching rotation, right? Guys like Reed Detmers, Griffin Canning, Patrick Sandoval. He's been a pretty good left-handed pitcher. You got Tyler Anderson from the Dodgers last season. He had a subpar year. Chase Selseth has shown flashes, so there's potential there. It's just them about putting it all together for this team. And I don't mind the lineup, right? I mean, we mentioned Rendon. I mean, I think when you make comments like that, it's just a job for you and you just show up for the paycheck. I mean, he's getting a nice paycheck at the end of the day. But
A real nice one.
Yeah, I mean, real nice one. So I think that they're kind of regretting paying him that much money when they did after they got him from the Nationals when they did win the title, a few seasons ago. But I think for this team being in this division, I just think, again, it's just going to be top heavy for this Angels team. Without Ohtani, who had a WAR of 6 last year batting wise. You take that away, you take away what he did pitching wise. I think that this team is probably in that. I think their ceiling is probably going to be 70 wins. And I think that's going to fall short of 72 and a half. So I think I'm going to go with the under on this team here as well. You have anything else for the Angels?
Yeah, I mean, just the thing with the Angels is, I mean, okay, if your pitching it has potential, but it can't be that bad in this division where the top 3 teams are 3 of the best hitting teams in the MLB. Not just your division, not just your conference, but in the entire MLB. You have to. Those are the teams you're going to play basically a weekly basis. You're going to see those teams the most, and you're not going to. I mean, it's not many teams that can pitch against the Astros and Texas lineup, but like those guys aren't going to be able to go into a series with even the Mariners, and dominate, or not even dominate, just be competitive. Can you keep them from under 3 runs? Like, I don't know if anybody can do that on a consistent basis. And that's my main issue. Like you said, and if Trout's in the lineup, I mean, he's gonna produce, but once he goes out for that stretch, which he ultimately will, like who steps up? What are the other players going to do? So that's why I can't see them getting over this number, is because they don't have enough for me, and they're just so dependent on Trout offensively. They were dependent on Shohei when he was pitching and with his bat, and Shohei's not there. Mike Trout is probably not going to. I mean, I hope he is, for just viewership, but I mean, we all know history says he's not going to be in the lineup long. So, yeah, man, this is one of my favorite bets on the card for real.
Yeah, and again, you look at this bullpen last year; it was the 4th worst in the American League. Two of the four worst bullpens were, at least from an ERA standpoint, were in this division. The Oakland A's were the 2nd worst from an ERA perspective. They gave up 394 earned runs from their bullpen, which was the most in the entire American League. And also the Angels had the 3rd worst, the 4th worst ERA in the American League as well. So again, if your starting pitching is not good and your starting pitching and your bullpen is not good, I think that's not going to be a recipe for you to win a lot of games. So this might be a team where you look at game by game totals, are probably a team that you probably want to look at betting the over on. So keep that in mind when you're betting on these Angels for this upcoming season. Anything else for this team?
No, that's it.
All right. Before we get over to the next team in this division, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN to get a 10% deposit, a 50% off for the first month. And you can enter any parlay ideas into Hall of Fame Bets Revolutionary Parlay Optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching the Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Lonte, let's get into the next team on this schedule. Next team in this division. That is going to be the Seattle Mariners in this division. This is a team that made a lot of headlines in the offseason with all the moves that they did make during this offseason. And again, like we talked about at the top of the division, or sorry, this episode, that this team was in the driver's seat last season to win this division and get to the playoffs, but they stumbled towards the end of the regular season, weren't able to make the playoffs. And they made a lot of moves this off season, did the Seattle Mariners. So starting last season, this was a team that I think was a big sexy pick last year, right? Whether it was winning this division, whether it was a team that was going to make the World Series or possibly even win the World Series, but they ended up with a record of 88-74 last season, finished third in this division. You take a look at some of the moves that were made in this offseason, it was a lot. So guys that they lost this offseason was going to be Teoscar Hernandez, Jared Kelenic that went over to the Atlanta Braves, Anthony Discalfani. Robbie Ray is going to be missing this upcoming season, at least with the UCL injury. Marco Gonzalez as well, and then Eugenio Suarez, who is not going to be with this team this upcoming season. Guys that they acquired this offseason, Jorge Polanco, Mitch Garver, Mitch Haniger, Austin Voth, and Gregory Santos. So again, you take a look at this Seattle Mariners team on paper, it's going to be really exciting to looking at this their lineup for this upcoming season, which obviously is going to be led by Julio Rodriguez, who I believe is the fourth favorite to win American League MVP at 10-1. But I do like the addition that they made with Jorge Polanco. Gives them some more depth in that in that batting lineup. Mitch Garver is going to be their full-time DH. Cal Raleigh, who had a pretty good season last year. Ty France is going to be at the first base for them. Mitch Haniger, we've talked about a lot as well. You take a look at the pitching rotation for this upcoming season. I mean, it's a lot of depth, and I really do like it. I think this is one of the better pitching rotations, at least in this division, right? Obviously, starts with Luis Castillo. When the second half of the season was starting to look at the Cy Young pitcher that we saw, he was one with the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, then you have Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, and then it's rounded off in that fifth spot by Brian Wu. They don't have a left-handed pitcher in this rotation right now here, Lonte. But again, I think this is a big year for this Seattle Mariners team, because I think the pressure is on now for them to start winning and at least make it into the playoffs after missing it last year. But what are your thoughts on this Mariners team coming into this year?
I'm all in, man. I'm all in. Division, pennant. I'm all in on everything about Seattle. I think they have probably the best, even without Robbie Ray, I think they have the best rotation in the majors. I mean, Castillo, you go from Castillo to Kirby. And I was reading, some people think that Kirby should be the number one for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I mean, I think Castillo still has it. Like you mentioned, he kind of tailed off from being as dominant as we've seen, but you think like their bullpen wasn't that good, but he's going deep in the games every single start. But that's not to take anything away from Kirby. I just think that, Castillo is just a little bit better. But you're going from Castillo to Kirby to Gilbert, Miller and Wu on the back end are serviceable. The bullpen is questionable, and I think they're already dealing with injuries in the bullpen, if I'm not mistaken. They were third in quality starts last year. They led the MLB in shutouts. I think they had 18 shutouts last year. Third in ERA. I mean, I just love everything about this Mariners team, except for that bullpen. If they can just kind of piece together some things to prevent these guys from going, longer innings, and kind of give them a little bit of leeway to kind of get out of games when they're up, too low, instead of having them go an extra inning. I think they'll be a little bit better this year. We saw in July and August they were 38-15. I'm sorry. We're tied with your Astros for first in September. And then they went 11-17 in that September, so that kind of derailed their chances. I do like the addition of Mitch Garver, and like you mentioned, Polanco, who came up for the Twins, a versatile infielder. He'll be able to do it all, play all positions in the infield. And like you said, the depth. The issue that they did have was, striking outs. They were second in strikeouts. They gotta. It was kind of feast or famine sometimes with them. It was either like home run. If they're not hitting home runs, they're not winning. So I think they got to be more consistent with the bats, swing for contact and not for the fences all the time. But again, that's why they were successful. When it's going good, it's going good. But you got to find ways to win games 2-1, even 1-0. So I think they'll learn from what they had last year. Like I said, as long as you're throwing out those guys at the top of that rotation, I think they'll always have a chance. The bats with Julio at the top of the lineup, I mean, I think their depth that they brought in, those guys are going to really help them out. Yeah, man, I'm all in on Seattle. One of my favorite bets in the division as well, along with that Angel under. So give me Seattle. What are they, 3-1 to win the division?
3-1, yeah.
Yeah, I like 3-1. I like the over. And I'm gonna sprinkle some on the World Series as well.
Yeah, I didn't mention their odds for the division, like you mentioned there, Lonte. It is 3-1 for them to win this division. Looking at them to make the playoffs this upcoming season, currently over on DraftKings, it's at -145 on the yes. The no is currently priced at +125 for them to win the division. Like we said, 3-1. AL pennant, it's at 9-1, and then for them to win the World Series at 20-1 right now. So again, I do like the moves that they did make. Bolstering that everyday lineup for this team. You added some veteran guys in there. I really do think that this pitching rotation is really going to be in really good form. I think that if Luis Castillo can be that ace like he has been through most of his career, I think this team is primed to, again, compete. And possibly, again, would you be surprised if they won this division? Absolutely not. Because, again, they were in the contention for it to win it last season, and they just weren't able to just get the job done towards the end of the road, into the season there. But like you mentioned, I think for this team, it's about consistency, right? Like from month to month, and when it matters the most in that month of September, where you're trying to close out the division, because it is going to be a tight race, right? With the Houston Astros that are there every single year, at least over the past, 6-7 years. The Texas Rangers with their offense as well. I think this is going to be a team which I'm going to be on the over for this team here as well, at 87.5 for this team. I do think that this is a 90-win team at minimum.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I do think like the depth that they did acquire in this offseason to bolster their rotation and also their everyday lineup, I think is gonna be fun. I know we haven't really talked about any player futures or player props futures, but I think I am gonna sprinkle on Julio Rodriguez to win MVP for the American League.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, he's at 10-1 right now for this award. He's right behind Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Yordan Alvarez, and then it's Julio Rodriguez at 10-1, tied with another player in this division, Corey Seager, who's at 10-1. So you have three guys, Lonte, in this division alone that are top three on odds-on favorites to win the MVP. So that kind of tells you how great this division really is. Do you have anything else for this division? I know Captain Sano's mentioning, I think
Bryce Miller, Cy Young. I don't see those. I was looking for the odds. I didn't see it. I mean, I don't hate it, but
let me see if I can.
Wow, 150-1. He said it's not bad.
For who was it again? I'm sorry.
Bryce Miller.
Bryce Miller. I do see Brian Wu at 200-1. I see a Mason Miller. Where is Bryce Miller? Yeah, I see. If you find 151, definitely shop around, because especially on some of these books, I mean, you can find, like, if instead of mentioning 150-1, I see a book that has 80-1. So that's almost nearly double on again.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, when you talk about these awards, especially in the MLB, shop around and get the best number, man.
What is do you see anything for Kirby, Cy Young?
So I think him and so Kirby's at 14-1, Castillo's at 13-1. That's currently over at DraftKings.
You remember he was picking up momentum.
25-1.
Remember he was picking up momentum at the end of the year. Like,
yeah,
I think his odds were like cut in half. Like every other start, he was like killing it.
Yeah,
and then September happened.
It's interesting that like this top 15, top 20, you have all three pitchers for this Seattle Mariners team that are odds on for the Cy Young Award. So I mean, look, this team is primed. They're equipped, and I think now it's just about going out, winning out ball games, and getting to the playoffs. I think that's the first step for this team. You got anything else?
No, that's it, man.
All right, let's get over to the next team in this division. That is going to be the reigning World Series champions. That is the Texas Rangers, who come into this season with a win total of 89.5. Their division odds are at 2-1. for them to win the AL pennant is at plus 650, and for them to repeat as World Series champions, they are at 14-1. I mean, we talked about at volumes at the top of the episode that they won the World Series title last year, led by their offense. I think the more interesting conversation for this team, Lonte, is pitching, right? Because we mentioned that Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom were supposed to be the two guys that led them to the World Series title last year. Wasn't really the case because we saw Jacob deGrom go down early for this rotation of the Texas Rangers. Max Scherzer wasn't able to finish the postseason last year as well. And Max Scherzer is getting up there in age. I know he hasn't been able to perform really in the playoffs last year, but in the regular season, you know, Max Scherzer is Mad Max. I mean, there's no question about it. But I mean, you take a look at some of the notable moves last season, or this past off season. They lost Mitch Garver, like we talked about, over to the Seattle Mariners. Aroldis Chapman that they had as well. He's gone. Will Smith, Martin Perez is gone as well. And a key piece last year, Lonte, which I still can't believe is not signed, Jordan Montgomery, the starting pitcher, left-handed pitcher.
What's the deal with him?
Him and Blake Snell both are still haven't been signed.
What are they doing?
I have no idea. And they did get some pitching into that bullpen. They picked up Tyler Mahle for this Rangers rotation. Also Kirby Yates in that bullpen and David Robertson as well. So I think the conversation here starts with the pitching, right? But again, I think that's kind of been the theme for this team because Max Scherzer, he's out till midseason. He underwent back surgery in December. Jacob deGrom is also out till midseason. He's recovering from TJ surgery. And same thing with Tyler Mahle. He's going to be out until midseason, recovering from TJ surgery. So you have 2 out of your 3 pitchers that you're expecting to be in your starting rotation that are coming back from TJ surgery. But for this Texas Rangers everyday lineup, we saw what they did last year. I mean, they were one of the best, if not the best. And oh, by the way, they have a guy by the name of Whit Langford that's supposed to come up for this team. And that's just going to add more depth to this potent offense that's led by Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, Evan Carter, Josh Jung, Nathaniel Lowe. I mean, they are just absolutely loaded when you talk about this lineup. But I think the conversation right now here, Lonte, is that pitching rotation.
Yeah, we got a bad storm coming, so that's why I keep getting knocked off. But and I mean, I don't want to repeat anything. If I do repeat anything you said, just forgive me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the weakness is other than rotation. I mean, elite. They like elite defense behind whoever's pitching. I mean, they were second in errors and fielding percentage. The bats are what they are. I mean, Marcus Semien finished top 3 in the AL MVP 3 different times. I think he has another big year. I love Evan Carter, like an MVP candidate. I don't know what his odds are, but I do think that he has a big year. I mean, we saw how those guys played in that postseason. The one thing that I am kind of worried about is, do they get a little bit complacent? Also, they're going from being the hunter to the hunted. So every team is going to be up for them when they see them coming into the city, or when they're going into their city. They're going to be. We see teams all the time out of the sport. Once they win one, I mean, unless you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you got Mahomes. I mean, even then, like, I don't know if they're going to kind of go through the motions and kind of be more prepared for August and September versus going all out here. They're going to try to get those guys healthy. We all know the history. I'm not even counting deGrom. To be honest with you, like, I'm not even counting him at all because I know. I mean, I'm hoping that nothing happens to him, but it's always something with deGrom. So
can't count on him anymore.
I mean, I really, it's just so much good things to say about this team. I'm saying that, but I'm probably going to go under just for, like, I just don't know if they'll be able to sustain that level of play that they were playing with late in the season, especially with the top of their rotation not being what it's going to be, after All-Star break or whenever they get those guys back. Now, it will build some, like, depth for whenever those guys, they'll be battle tested, those younger guys that'll be able to step up in the place of deGrom, Scherzer, and Montgomery for the fact. Can they get Montgomery back, or does he not want to go back, or what's his deal?
I think it's a money thing. I mean, I haven't read anything updated for both Montgomery and Blake Snell, but again, at this juncture of the season, when you have Scott Boras as your
Yeah,
agent,
that's true. Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, he's going to
That's
try to
true.
squeeze out every single penny he can for you. And I think that's
Yeah,
probably
that's
what the
true.
holdup is for both these
Yeah,
pitchers.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would like to see them get. I would have liked to see them get a little bit more depth in that pitching. Their bullpen. I mean, it's not terrible, but it worries me a little, especially not having the depth at the top of the rotation. But um, yeah, man. I mean, defensively, I think they're great. So the pitcher doesn't have to be phenomenal. You know what I mean? And then I'm excited to see what Wyatt Langford does from Florida. So I'm going under, but I don't love it. I'm not, as you can tell, but I just think something to be said for a team who was that hot, um, closing out the season and then opening things up with different rotation. Their bats are gonna be what they are, but how often can you win with just offense, and not have a solidified lineup, a solidified pitching lineup? So going under, Munaf. I don't love it, but I'm going under.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? Number one is there going to be a World Series hangover for this team because it was their first World Series title in franchise history. And then, like you mentioned, yeah, you go from, I think you worded it perfectly, that you go from the hunter to now being hunted by these teams that you're going to go visit, and you're going to get the best effort. And I think that, again, for this team, I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of DeGrom, right? I don't know if he's going to be healthy. I don't know what he's going to look like coming back from TJ surgery. Max Scherzer is getting up there in age. So I do think that for a guy, Lynn Jordan Montgomery, that we just talked about, that was a very core piece to them winning a title. Nathan Eovaldi was there as well. And Nathan Eovaldi has been a guy, and I saw when he won the title with the Red Sox, that he was a key piece in that postseason when it matters the most. He steps up, but during the regular season, you'll see, starts from Nathan Eovaldi where he gives up 3, 4, 5 runs with those first couple of innings. So I'm leaning towards the under here on this Texas Rangers team right now. I think they, again, being in that division last year where they won 90 games, because you're gonna have to compete with the team that we're about to talk about, and also the Seattle Mariners. I think it might be maybe a little bit of a slow start for this team coming out of the gate. For this Rangers team. But again, this is gonna be another team that you're probably gonna look at their team totals to go over again, because that was an absolute cash cow last year because the market hadn't caught up with what this team was doing day in and day out with this lineup that they do have here. So I'm on the under with this Texas Rangers team. But again, I would not be surprised if they're right back in the playoffs last year and making in the playoffs this upcoming season and make another run for World Series title. You have anything else for this team?
Nah, but I'm interested to see how that rotation looks when they get Grom, Scherzer back. And then again, this is what you got to think about. Like, even though those guys are slated to come back, half the season, it's going to take them time to get ramped up. So they're not going to be themselves until, probably towards the end of the season. And I mean, who knows how, with this being one of the tougher divisions, who knows, where they'll be as far as seed wise. And I think the AL will be a little bit tougher this year than past years. Some of the improvements that team has made. So yeah, it's tough. I'm gonna take a flyer on them to miss the playoffs. To be honest with you, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would be shocked that happened. I don't think so. I mean, for them right now, for them to make the playoffs, that number is sitting at minus 195. For them to miss the playoff at plus 160. So it's almost like you have a team here that won the World Series, but it seems like the market is still a little bit skeptical about them making the playoffs.
Right. I mean, even going in, they were skeptical. Like they were, going in. I think they're dogs in the first 2 series, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think we both were Astros.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, so it's far fetched though. It's not, but I think the offense is just that good. I think the offense is just that good. But if they went to a slump, a couple of slumps here and there, tough road trip, here and there, and offense isn't there, I think their pitching can win enough games to, kind of put them above water until the offense kind of gets back on track.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Let's get over to the last team in this division. That is going to be the Houston Astros. Right now, they are the odds-on favorite to win the AL West at around even money. Their win total for this upcoming season is at 92.5. For them to make the playoffs, they are currently sitting at minus 425. For them to miss the playoffs is plus 340. Looking at the pennant odds in the American League, they are the odds-on favorite at 4-1. And for them to win the World Series, they are the third favorites at around 8-1 for this team. And this team, 6 consecutive years? It's almost like we compare it to the Kansas City Chiefs, who at least made it to the championship series of their respective league, and they fell a little bit short again, let's just be real about it. That the Rangers were the better team last year. That's why they went on to win the World Series title last year. But for this Astros team, like you mentioned, Lonte, that they did lock up Jose Altuve for pretty much the rest of his career as a member of the Houston Astros. They did get Justin Verlander back last season as far as being the top of the rotation guy. So let's talk about some other departures from last season, right? Martin Maldonado no longer on this team. Michael Brantley retired. They also lost Hector Neris and Phil Maton out of their bullpen. But the biggest move I think this team made, and one of the better moves I think in the entire MLB, they added Josh Hader to that bullpen. So now you have Ryan Presley, that's going to be their setup guy, and now you have Josh Hader, who's going to be their closer. I mean, that's a killer setup man and the closing pitcher for this bullpen. And that was some of the conversation last year with the Astros team, right? That especially going into the second half of the season when the trade deadline was around, that they needed to add bullpen help. And they were able to do that, right? In the offseason here, they didn't have to wait till the trade deadline. So they picked up Josh Hader. Obviously, they got a new manager. Dusty Baker retires. They hired their former bench coach now as the first-year manager, Joe Espada, for this Astros team. And we talked about it, right, at the top of the episode that Justin Verlander is going to start this season on the IL, recovering from a shoulder issue. But this rotation is what I'm looking at here, Lonte, and I think that's kind of been the theme for me throughout this division here, is that now some of these guys in the bottom of the rotation need a step up for this team. When you talk about guys like Hunter Brown, he was kind of crowned Verlander 2.0, Jose Urquidy, Christian Javier, Framber Valdez. This rotation is going to be pretty solid, especially when you get Justin Verlander back. But what are you thinking about this team going up, for this upcoming season?
Man, I got one rule. Actually, I got 2 rules when it comes to betting the Astros. I always bet Yordan for whatever reason. I always bet him home run leader and MVP. I always bet those 2 for the past 3 or 4 years, and he always gets me excited for the first half of the season, and then he'll get hurt, and then he's got no shot. I think he had a shot, but then Judge hit all those bombs that year, and then I think he got hurt. I think he hurt his shoulder. So I make those 2 bets. I'm never betting under on the Astros. I don't care what they got going on, because I think it's a lot to be said for continuity in a baseball team, and those guys have been around each other for so long. They know each other's tendencies. Dusty does a good job with the lineup. He can't play Maldonado anymore, so that's a good thing. And this team is just so good, man. With Hader in the lineup, like you mentioned, you're going from Presley to Hader. I mean, that's really just unfair when an offense is good. They're getting a 4 straight division title. They won a division 6 of the last 7 years. I think he said.
Yeah.
I think Abreu needs to be more productive. Pena's got to be a little bit more consistent. You got to get back to that postseason run that he had. Well, I mean, not that good, but he just has to be a little bit better. I'm poking holes here because it's not much to back, but you just want to get those guys, those younger guys, like you mentioned, a little bit more consistent to help out those veteran guys who are going to be there when you need, and that's Altuve, Bregman,
Tucker,
Yordan, Tucker,
those. On and on.
You're right, yeah, but those guys are going to be there. So you want those guys to, kind of those younger guys to kind of build up some confidence and be able to perform in spots whenever they're called on, in case those guys don't have it for that night. But I think the pitching, like you mentioned, that is a decent question mark, I guess, because I mean Hunter Brown started out on fire. He was on fire, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit. And then you mentioned Verlander kind of coming into his own later on in the season. But I mean, I think Framber is amazing. I'm probably going to bet him to win the Cy Young. I don't know how good the odds are. But that's going to be one of my bets. Outside of that, man, I'm not going under on the Astros. I would lean over. I'm just not going to bet it just because, like, I mean, they're like the Dodgers, man. They just you can't bet under on anything that they do. I can't do it. Even if I think the number is perfect, to be honest. But would I be surprised if they win 100 games? Nope, I wouldn't.
I think there's 3 main points, and I think the Astros are going to be even better this season. It's number one. We talked about the managerial change here, that sometimes Dusty Baker last season was just stuck in his old ways of the way that he managed his team, right? And again, that just kind of tells you how good this team was, even when Dusty was kind of holding this team back. So that's number one. Number two, going from Yanier Diaz to going from Martin Maldonado to Yanier Diaz, that's a significant upgrade at the batting. I know he's a great defensive catcher, was Maldonado, and that some of these veteran pitchers wanted him as the catcher. But last season, I should have had this in front of me on how many games that he did play last year, Diaz, but he had 23 home runs for this Astros lineup last year in the amount of games that he did play in. I forgot what my third point was, but I just think, again, Jose Abreu. He got off to a very slow start last year for this Astros team, and he turned it up in the second half of the year, and I think he came out and said himself that he's got to be better this year. Now, I know there's a little bit of a concern about his defense at first base, but when you talk about this lineup, that you have several MVP candidates on this roster in your everyday lineup, when you talk about Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Abreu, who wanted a few seasons ago in the shortened year, and Kyle Tucker, man. I mean, last year, again, if it wasn't for Ohtani and the way that what he's been doing, I think Kyle Tucker can be in that conversation again for MVP this upcoming season. So right now, you're talking about Framber Valdez. He's the third odds-on favorite for American League MVP. For Cy Young. Garrett Cole 5-1, Kevin Gausman 7-1, and then Framber Valdez at plus 750. Then we talk about MVP. Yordan is the third favorite at 8-1. Kyle Tucker's at 17-1. And then if you want to go down the list, Alex Bregman. I
kind of like Tucker at 17, man. I wonder if there's a 20 out there. If I can get a 20, if I can find a 20, I'll bet 20.
You could, I'm sure it's out there. You could probably find a 20-1 out there.
I'll be on that.
Yeah, and again, Kyle Tucker had a really good season last year as well. So again, this is going to be a lot of fun watching the Astros team. So I mean, don't sound biased, but I mean, I'm all over the over here for the Astros. Again, I can see this team winning another 100 games. So I do think at minimum this team does win 95 wins. It does get 95 wins for the regular season. Mm-hmm. It's just I want to see what I can get. I want to see what I can get from this pitching rotation outside of Christian Javier and Framber Valdez, with some of the guys at the bottom, was JP France, Hunter Brown, and then Jose Urquidy. So again, they're just a belt putting issue. It's just about them now going out and being hungry again to get back to the World Series. So Astros over 92.5. I think that's always an auto bet for me. You have anything else for this Astros team?
Nah, man, they pretty much summed it up with everything.
Yeah. All right. Let's get over to best bets to wrap it up here for this division. Lonte, it could be anything, man. You want to give out a division best bet, odds winner, win total, anything you want to give out as a best bet?
Yeah, I won't give out the Mariners since I know we both love that one, but that is probably one of my favorite bets. So I'm going to go with something that we kind of both agreed on as well. We'll go with the Angels under 72.5 was the number.
72.5 is the number right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to dive into the advanced stuff just to know, like, Ohtani and Trout are two of the best players in baseball, and even with them, they were average. No, without one of those, if you take one of those away, and you got a guy, your second best player, who's saying it just shows up to work. Like, I mean, I don't know how the vibes are there. And now you don't want to make bets on vibes, but just, if you dive into like scheduling and we touched on their rotation, not good at all. So they get at least two of those guys to be sub 3, even sub 3.5, I would say that they're not probably not going to have a shot. So I think they are around like 65, 66 wins. So I'm going under for the Angels.
Yeah, I don't hate that, man. Again, I've been fading this Angels team for the past several seasons. Worked out very well. Not they let you lose Ohtani. I think that again, there's a lot more question marks about this Angels team than answers right now. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be the chalky guy and I hate to be the homer pick, but I mean, I think this offseason for the Astros is one of the better ones that they've had. I mean, look, the manager change I talked about, the addressing of the bullpen. I know, like I mentioned, Verlander is going to start on the IL, but again, I still think there's enough pitching depth with this team. And the continuity in that lineup, right? I mean, 1 through 5, 1 through 6, it's gonna be murderer's row for this team, and I think something similar with the Dodgers. I mean, you could throw the Rangers into that conversation as well. I think this is gonna be very team. I think it's just about, but this Astros team is just keeping that core intact. And again, it's something similar to what we talk about in the NBA, we talk about in the NFL as well. I think they really do remind me of the Kansas City Chiefs, man. So they're just consistent. They find ways to win games, and they find ways at minimum to get to at least the American League Championship Series. So I'm gonna go with the Astros over 92.5 wins, man. I think they do win 95 games this upcoming season. And one more thing I didn't mention about this Astros team last year, they weren't very good at Minute Maid Park on their home field.
Yeah,
they had a
true.
record that was below 500. So I think if that corrects itself for this Astros team, again, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think any of us would be shocked if they won another 100 games this upcoming season. So I'm gonna go with the Astros. Best bet over 92.5 wins for this upcoming season for the AL West division. Best bet here. That's gonna do it, man. Hour in the books. I could have sat here and talked about the Astros for another couple hours here, but yeah, 3 divisions down here, Lonte. 3 more to go, and before we know it, we're just a few weeks away from opening day in the MLB. But anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
That's it, man. Good to be back. Good to talk some baseball. Yeah, this is going to be a competitive division for sure, especially at the top. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it, man. We got a few more weeks to get some stuff ironed out, and we'll be ready for opening day and the real grind.
Yeah, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat. TVDBJ, disappointed in you, man. Showing up about 5 minutes or 55 minutes into the pod when you're supposed to be the first one there. But Mal already assessed you a $5 fine, but you can get yourself out of that if we are the first one back on Thursday, which it will be Mal, Dylan, and I think we're going to try to, I just got a message from the consig, Dave, that he'll probably join those guys on that episode with Mal to preview the NL Central division on Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. Please do so. We are inching towards getting to 1,000 subscribers. I would love to reach that milestone by the beginning of the season, but we can only do it with the help of you guys who haven't subscribed already to the MLB Gambling Podcast. So appreciate if you guys can do that. 3 divisions down, 3 more to go. You can follow us on X and on Instagram. On X, we're at MLB SGPN, and on Instagram at MLB Gambling Podcast. Also, make sure to follow Lonte over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at XXLonteXX. You can also follow me there at SportsNerd824. All right, we'll talk to you guys on Thursday for the NL Central Division. If you haven't already, went back and listened to the first 2 division previews that we did. A lot of time for you to do that, so go back and do that. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you do get it, whether it's on Spotify or on Apple. All right, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.